your take, or what do you think about the anti-terrorism bill?
I took a position. I have serious reservations about it, especially, if I remember correctly, Section 25, which says that you can be arrested even if you're simply a suspect, as determined by the Anti-Terror
Terrorist
Council,
Council, yeah.
or the ATC. Why is that significant? Because under the Constitution and under the law, you can only be arrested if they have a warrant for your arrest issued by a judge.
Yeah.
Now, if they don't have a warrant of arrest issued by a judge, a warrantless arrest can only be effected under 3 circumstances.
Okay.
1, if you are in the act of committing a crime. May sinaksak ka, kasasaksak mo lang, or nagnakaw ka sa bangko, nandun ka pa, inabutan ka. They can arrest you on the spot without a warrant of arrest. 2, they are in hot pursuit. You just committed a bank robbery, you escaped, the police are hot on your tail, and it takes them 2-3 days, even a week to catch you.
But
then they
catch
can
you.
arrest you without a warrant as well. But it requires that the crime should have been committed fairly recently. Third would be if you're an escapee or you escaped from prison. They don't need a warrant to arrest you and bring you back to prison.
Case.
Because you have an existing conviction
proved,
or pending case. Outside of those 3, they cannot arrest you without a warrant. So that's what makes the law, in a way, problematic. It's not so much the period of detention of 14 days plus 10 days.
But so much can also happen during the 14 days.
Yes, but some safeguards, to be fair, were placed in the law with respect to informing the judge, informing the Human Rights Commission.
But still, they can still arrest you.
That's the problematic
without the
part.
warrant. Now, my question is, they're saying that this is fake news. I read about it and they're saying that, oh, that's not true, or kailangan na
pinapasa mo
warrant.
yung mga pambabash ngayon sa akin.
Hindi, tinatanong ko lang kasi. Because I feel that, like, when I heard about it, I read up on it, I wanted to speak up on what, but I had to do my own reading, my own understanding about it. But when I had questions, you were the first person that I thought that I could ask that make me understand it in layman's terms. So that's why I'm asking you, the fake news is nga na hindi daw totoo.
No, it is in the law. And the problem is the Anti-Terror Council does not have, or the law did not provide for the quantum of evidence or proof that the Anti-Terror Council should have before they can consider you a suspect. Neither were there any procedures laid out as to how they will vote. Do they vote unanimously before a warrant is before a person is arrested? Is it majority there be a quorum? Is it a majority of 3 out of 5? Whatever, none is stated. Unlike the provision of the Constitution, which is very, very specific.
When you don't have a warrant of arrest and you totally did not know what you did, technically, if ever that is the case, if you fight back, that's also another issue.
Well, if you fight back, it'll be a totally different issue. If you are in self-defense, for example, because you did not know, you did not commit anything wrong, as you usually see on TV right now in the United States, and they tend to fight back, not follow, disobey orders, then you have a problem. And then you have a confrontation.
Most probably the reality is this is going to pass.
Most likely, I think, and most likely too, it will be questioned before the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court will have to decide on the constitutionality not only of the entire law, but specifically of that provision, which for me runs counter to 2 constitutional provisions, which is to inform you of the nature and cause of the accusation against you. They cannot just pick you up and not tell you why they are. And 2, because of the constitutional provision on warrantless arrests and the issuance of a warrant, which is very specific as well. If they provided for certain standards and quantum of proof in relation to a judge issuing a warrant, all the more to someone who is not a judge and is a political appointee. And all of the members of the Anti-Terror Council are political appointees, coterminous to whoever the sitting president is or will be.
For example, it's kunwari you're part of like this barkada, right? And then you're no longer friends with them, but you had pictures with them and you were part of that, you can be a suspect.
Again, there are no definitions. It's too broad. And that's what makes it worrisome. Now, if they placed limitations, procedures in order to constitute what they call a valid delegation of legislative power to the ATC, then probably it can withstand constitutional scrutiny by the Supreme Court. But then again, the Supreme Court, as they say, is the court of last resort. If the Supreme Court makes a mistake, it nevertheless becomes part of the law of the land.
And-
because they're the final arbiter.
I mean,
of
I want to
anything.
point out that in other countries, their laws are actually more extreme.
Yes.
But it's done in a way that it's safe for.
It's a question. It's not really safe. It's a question of confidence, I guess. It's a question of the level of confidence of the people in their government, the level of confidence they have in their institutions.
Yeah.
How independent and free are our courts?
Yeah.
How independent and free are our uniformed personnel? Will they obey an illegal command? So on and so forth. So it depends how long these institutions have been working and how high their level of confidence is that these institutions will actually be able to balance two competing interests. On the one hand, prevent terrorism or any terror attack.
Yeah.
On the other, protect innocent civilians and those who may be falsely or
Yes.
wrongfully accused because of whatever motive those in power may have.
Because I'm for a safer country, of course, I'm for that. But then, what do you think they can do? Like, if you can revise it, how would you revise it?
Just that provision.
And that says it all.
You can extend the period of detention before a case can be filed against you because sometimes it's difficult to gather evidence, especially if you're really a good terrorist. But I think that should suffice without giving necessarily the power to arrest quote-unquote suspects, or at the very least provide procedures by which a suspect is defined and determined, and transparency rules as to how these suspects are being identified or will be identified. Again, it's a question of confidence building. I think government should, instead of fighting or arguing with people saying you're wrong or you're right, it's fake news, they should just simply build confidence that this law will not be abused, that this law, even if it should pass, will be subjected to constitutional scrutiny by the Supreme Court, and that they will obey.
Okay, so, I mean, but we're not them. So what can we do? We can't do anything.
I think a lot of people will be filing cases before the Supreme Court to question certain provisions of the law, for sure. That is almost a certainty.
And like for some people, because we feel obviously that it will be passed, what can you say that would probably ease, if there's any way to ease their frustrations and their fear about this bill?
As with any law that you don't like, or as with any law that you initially liked but later on turned out to be bad law, then you go to Congress and you make known your position or opinion so that Congress will be convinced to either amend, repeal, or abrogate the law in its entirety.
Yeah. Okay, so this is like, it can be about that bill, it can be about everything that's going on right now in the world and in our country. And a lot of people are feeling frustrated and, you know, these are really, really hard times. And I mean, like,